Would you believe you? Would you? Blah, blah, blah. Would you believe me if I told you this video thing, this poetry thing, was supposed to be on Mondays, and then I edited on. Took me forever to get the footage off my camera, and then I edited it on Sunday, and then I was going to upload it to YouTube on Monday. Totally spaced it out. Uploaded it on Tuesday. So I was gonna call it something cute like Sivan's Poetry Mondays. But now I had to change it because now I'm not on the Monday schedule. So my plan originally anyway was just to kind of gap these a week apart, and so this is week 2. Maybe it becomes a Tuesday thing. And I just had some coffee and I had to run around with my friend who's being very nice and helping me get a bunch of my life stuff together. And so I have the energy to do this, and I might as well get it out of the way now because it took me a while to get the videos and it took me a second to get everything edited. So it's best to just get ahead of this. These are my bracelets. Very pretty. These are my bracelets. Very pretty. And so let's start another poem from Poems of Nature. Hi, I am Sivan Alyra Rose, and I'm going to be reading poems that I have dog-eared to be my favorites out of this poetry compilation book series, Poems on Nature. Again, doesn't really have an author or who compiled all of these, but I love this little book, and I want to buy more of these little books from Barnes and Noble. $1 million. Okay, I'm gonna assume it's this one and not the poem behind it. Okay. Thank you to, I got a pretty good response to my last video, aka more than 5 people watched it as soon as I put it out, which is pretty cool to me. This is my Hello Kitty necklace. Very fun. Got it for my birthday. And then, so it kind of gave me some confidence. You know, this is a real sappy series that nobody asked me to make. And I love being a sappy pants. I love being sappy, ooey gooey, gushy mushy about love and poetry and art. That's what I do. And so I am going to be reading The White Birds by William Butler Yeats. William Butler Yeats. Cognitively strengthen yourself. Okay, let me adjust. This is The White Birds. Ooh, no. Come over here. Hi. This is The White Birds by William Butler Yeats. I would that we were, my beloved, white birds on the foam of the sea. We tire of the flame of the meteor before it can fade and flee. And the flame of the blue star of twilight, hung low on the rim of the sky, has awakened in our hearts, my beloved, a sadness that may not die. A weariness comes from those dreamers, dew-dabbled lily and rose. Ah, dream not of them, my beloved, the flame of the meteor that goes, or the flame of the blue star that lingers hung low in the fall of the dew. For I would we were changed to white birds on the wandering foam, I and you. I am haunted by numberless islands and many a Danaan shore, where time would surely forget us and sorrow come near us no more. Soon far from the rose and the lily and fret of the flames we would be, where we only white birds my beloved, buoyed out on the foam of the sea. And that is The White Birds by William Butler Yeats. I was really hoping, hold on, let me shorten these videos so they're easier for me to send. I was really, I wanted to, I think this is, before I decided to read the poems in the order they're dog-eared in the book, I actually initially wanted to read this one first. When I first came up with this little idea of reading poems for YouTube. This poem, The White Birds, I'm not familiar with William Butler Yeats and biased as the way I am to John Keats' romantic poetry, but I will say this is one of the most romantic poems I have ever read. And when I first read it, I had to keep rereading it. It's one passage, three verses in one stanza, and I had to keep rereading it because I've never heard something so romantic of the ocean and so, I want to say cryptic, but using such strong description and allusion to describe the freedom of being unburdened from the world's responsibilities with who you love. And I particularly love that they point out sea foam. I feel like that's another layer of romance because sea foam doesn't happen often, and it's also a real visual sight, as well as I have to ask myself, is he alluding to the color of sea foam? Because when he brings up sea foam, I picture it washing up on the shore and the little birds that run around it to pick up food from what comes up in the sand, but it also invokes the bright green color, the pale green seafoam color, and I think that's really romantic. And I had to keep rereading when this part of the passage when I first read the poem was, "We tire of the flame of the meteor before it can fade and flee, and the flame of the blue star of twilight hung low on the rim of the sky." I was like, well, that sounds rather apocalyptic for what I imagine is a poem written in a time where apocalyptic mindsets weren't as popular as they are today because of film, movie, television, and environmentalism. But I believe he is describing, again, it's a strong illusion of how to be these pure white birds together, devoted, as some species of birds, what do they call it, mate for life, have this unspoken devotion once they find each other, and that as to experience the world as these birds, so many of the burdens of the cosmos would just fall away and would become almost romantic and become almost a signal that we are in time together and we are in love together. We are these two birds. If only, were we only white birds, my beloved, buoyed out on the foam of the sea. That's the ending line. And it's beautiful that in a way, just like the John Keats poem that I read in the last video, this love that this person's feeling, they have their love in this version. The John Keats poem, he's describing a love that is now either behind him, in memory, or, in his past. But this is describing how aching it feels, I know this feeling too well, to be in partnership and worry about the world's weight on the relationship, all the things we can't control, that could bring harm or separation or problems within your health or your mental stability, and that to these small white birds devoted to each other and the foam of the ocean, it's all together for just one passage, one of the most romantic and, I want to say, sensitive, maybe thoughtful, I can't really think of the word right now, way to describe that feeling. That only if I could protect you from worldly harm, disaster, like whatever the world, like everything outside of love, care, compassion, obviously bothers William Butler Yeats, and he just wants him and his love to see the world as the stars come up and go down, as the sun. Like he just, I love, it's such a simple way to describe experiencing the tranquility of the day with your love. If I get married, like, this poem is gonna like somehow end up like at my wedding. The lily and rose, like romantic. The lily and rose. Lilies are usually typically a funeral flower, and roses are typically a flower of romance and devotion or congratulations, and lilies are usually of condolence. And it's just it's so contrasting in such a simple way to describe wanting to preserve the purity of love, and in a poem acknowledging what the fears and anxieties and worries they have, knowing we are not these white birds on the foam of the sea. And the way the poem's written, it so strongly invokes, like, was William Butler Yeats just sitting like at the beach one day and saw, there's always all types of tiny little birds, and especially depending on where you're at geographically in the world, was he just out at the beach one day and saw these birds twiddling around? Was the sky just beautiful? Was he just overcome with, I can't put this memory safe in a box and keep it forever kind of thing? Because that's what I get when I read it, and it makes me, I think I cried when I first read this one, because I haven't in such a short way ever seen such an accurate description of love as deep and vast as the ocean as it comes to the shore, purity and white birds. Like, it's so utterly romantic in the way one of the most romantic feelings you can feel in a partnership is not wanting to lose the person. And I think that's incredibly powerful. I'm having a really good hair day. And that is, I had coffee. So sorry I'm a lot more awake doing this video. I filmed the last one like literally at night on whim, did my makeup like just for the video. I actually had to get ready today to go do stuff, and so I guess I'm just gung-ho. But that is The White Birds by William Butler Yeats, and I really recommend reading this one. Just Google it. Use any search engine you have and read this one. I feel like if it's your first time reading it, you will definitely feel what I felt, which is like you feel like you're sitting with him as he's writing it. You feel like where he was when the poem came to him. Unless, I'm not gonna get into it. I was like, unless is one of those cases where like this is his wife's poem and he was like, I'm taking that. That's not okay. But thank you. That was a really good poem we got to share together. And now on to my address to I and you. I am about a week removed from my last I and you, my word I and you, I being me, you being the viewer. And while I was editing, this is why I make this little ending bit, because I end up editing these videos and I'm trying to shed ego and vanity and all kinds of business lately. I'm really trying to find a new sense of, here's what it'll be about. Here's what today's word will be about: a sense of maturity. Ooh. I mark these videos 18 plus, and if you're under 18 watching these videos, I don't know what you're gonna get out of these more than like if you just like me and you want to hear me read poetry, that's cool. But I think I'm going to make my address today to me and to you, dear viewer, about maturity. And it's appropriate that this poem was the one to read today, and I'm feeling rather overcome by maturity concepts, and to do a lot of adult business today in order to get my life to a more stable position. And it's not necessarily easy either. It's not like it's going without challenges, and that kind of bothers me, but that's kind of the essence of maturity, is whatever bothers you, still figuring out how to move through it and get what you need to be done, and plan and work with others to achieve, small goals. To my case, I'm trying to achieve small goals to then work my way up to larger goals that I have. And I am too vexed by loss and separation and being mature about all these things. I'm really glad I had to read that one today, because I do love that poem, and it really rings home to how I feel about partnership and how separation and loss can become as strong of a feeling as the love and the partnership itself to be without. And so my address to you, Sivan, and I, dear viewer, would be: a maturity is a reward that you give yourself. There are no cookies. There are no gold stars. The reward of being mature is, knowing you are not exempting yourself from society. You are participating in society and respecting others, regardless of how they respect you or not. And the essence of choosing maturity is finding a grounding and stability within yourself. And if you're like me, Sivan, you know that you can tend to become distracted, lose sight of your goals, maybe, I don't want to say be gullible or too naive in believing in things, but sometimes things change. And I am really proud of you, Sivan, for maintaining a maturity through this. You and I both know that you have done a lot of work in a short amount of time to preserve what you built for yourself, regardless of what you've been going through. And I admire you for that. And I come to you, dear viewer, to say the same thing. What you work on building, do not throw it away, because there are no cookies at the end of the rainbow. There is no gold star on the top of the page. You worked real hard to handwrite very neat, and commas, and dot your I's and cross your T's, and build proper sentences. You work very hard on that page, but sometimes you do not get a gold star, but it is just as good, if not better, if not the essence of maturity and self-acceptance, to know you work at that level. You aim to perform and present and be as a person at that level. So today's message is about maturity. Tough stuff, hard stuff, but so is life. C'est la vie. That's not the one I want to use. I like saying c'est la vie, but c'est la vie, c'est la vie. But there's another one with like an S that means such is life, which is also quoted in, like, I think John Wick chapter 4, the movie. And in the movie they use it as a context of him, what a rebellious statement to say in the face of confrontation. But also it's not rebellious in its essence. It's not. To accept life is to not be cavalier to it, to not be numb. Don't numb yourself. If anything's going to be on top of this message of maturity, do not numb yourself as well as you pursue a path that has no cookies, no good stars. Maybe a rainbow or two will show up for you, but we are all on this journey, this grand experience together. And when you are alone, And when you look in the mirror, you will feel better knowing you're choosing a path with least destruction, with least turmoil, with least disrespect towards yourself and towards others. I mean, like, stand your ground, stand on business when you need to. Be eloquent about it. Do not fill yourself with regret and resentment. Know that you are choosing what you need at a mature level. And that's all it needs to be. And that is in itself the reward of this grand experience. I guess to put a little lighter note on this, because it just popped into my mind. For like the people, I don't want to be name dropping such corporate places on a YouTube video, but for the people that get mad at Makas for not serving breakfast after 10:30, like there's people that genuinely get very upset that Makas does not have an all-day breakfast menu anymore. I could not imagine genuinely letting something that so outside of yourself, out of your control, out of your hands, not even mandatory to go to Makas for breakfast. Like, go to the local diner, go to Denny's, like, go somewhere, right? That is in essence, don't be that person. And if you are that person, it's okay, but just know you are withholding yourself from experiences because you want to vice grip onto something you want. That's not mature. I do that all the time, and that's not mature. You got to be good at being water off a duck's back. If it looks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it's a duck. And I'm gonna leave that there. I'm just quoting a bunch of people today. It's the coffee, and I've had the coffee of productivity today, and I am trying to be honest when I make these videos, and I am going through quite literally what the poem is talking about, and it's kind of upsetting me, as well as having to face a new arc of maturity in my life. So let's go through it together, yeah? Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed the poem, and have a good morning, noon, and night.